Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. And this one is just me giving some thoughts to a TV show, mainly because I picked up the Blu-ray of this about a week or two ago, and that is Kolchak the Night Stalker. Now, I actually did a review of this show quite a few years ago. It's still up on the channel. And Tino Lorber just came out with the Blu-ray of this, which I'll get into that in a few minutes.
The Night Stalker.
First off, I want to say that the packaging looks really nice. I like the interspersing of various monsters from the show. The zombie, the Ripper, the vampire. I think that's a really nice but simple design. Tino Lorber, their backs are always the same. It's always two pictures, and then if there's extras, it's here at the bottom. But I thought it works well for what it needed to be. Of course, a shot of our hero, Kolchak, played by Darren McGavin. Darren McGavin, this is what I recognize him the most from, but he's been in quite a few other stuff. I think most people will recognize him from being the father in A Christmas Story. He was also in the Arnold Schwarzenegger film Raw Deal. He also played Adam Sandler's dad in Billy Madison. So he's been around. Sadly, he's no longer with us. And again, before I get into the Blu-ray, to mention, just some people might not know what this is. This is a TV show that sadly only lasted for 1 year. What had happened was, in 1972, there was a TV movie called The Night Stalker. And when The Night Stalker came out, it was hugely successful. Yeah, I remember back in the day, TV shows, you only had a handful of networks. ABC, CBS, NBC. It wasn't today where you had not just constant upon constant channels, but the internet, streaming, all that stuff. This is well before that. And The Night Stalker was so successful that probably half of America saw that TV movie. I think the percentage was about 48% of the people in America was watching this TV movie. One of the most successful TV movies of its time. And of course, the next year you had a sequel, The Night Strangler. And both of those TV movies I enjoy. I think the thing about Kolchak, played by Darren McGavin, he was funny, he was entertaining, he was a normal guy, he would have these great pieces of dialogue, quick rapport between either the police and the captains that were always annoyed by his presence, with his boss, Vincenzo, played by... I cannot believe I forgot his name. I cannot believe I forgot his name. Simon Oakland. Simon Oakland, who plays his boss. Wonderful dialogue, snappy, quick-witted material. And then a variety of monsters, where each week he would deal with a monster. But anyway, these two TV movies were very successful. And so there was talk of making a third film. Now the third film, because the first film was about a vampire in Las Vegas. The second film was about kind of a alchemist warlock. I'm not quite sure how to describe it, but some felt it was too similar to The Night Stalker. But I think The Night Strangler is a little bit underrated. I think it's a worthy sequel. And people thought, hey, why don't we make this a TV show? Now, Darren McGavin's like, nah, I don't want to do a TV show. Like, how long could this keep up? And so there was talks of a third film called The Night Killers, where it would take place in Hawaii. It would deal with aliens, and something about they would replace senators and replace them with a duplicate. That never got made. And so people kept bugging Darren McGavin, do a show, do a show, do a show. He's like, well, I'll do a show if I'm the executive producer. And people laughed at him. And then he went to another guy, I'll do the show if I'm executive producer. And it's one of those like, oh, yeah, what, okay, fine. But of course they never did. And then as this series started, there was already friction. There was this two factions where Darren McGavin's the star, and on the set he would tell people what to do, what not to do, because he really wanted this to work. And then you had the producers. One producer quit after a couple episodes, and then another producer came in, and he dealt with behind the scenes, scripts, editing, so there was always this butting of heads. Now, I don't know, and that's one thing I wish they would have delved more into these commentaries. What was the actual friction about? Was it Darren McGavin? Maybe they said it, but I misconstrued it. Either Darren McGavin wanted more humor, or did he want to be more steery? I kind of wish they would delve a bit more into that. But even throughout these commentaries, you do get the idea that there was friction behind the scenes. I just wish there were more details as to what specifically did Darren McGavin want, what specifically did the producer want. I know that the studio, which was Universal at the time, as you can see there, Universal, they got the show, they wanted to make the show, but then as soon as they're making the show, they don't want the show. So it was low tier, they didn't give it much money, they never had enough money, they didn't want them to shoot at night, and they said, this is the Night Stalker, not the day for Night Stalker. Okay, it's not day for Night Stalker, it's called the Night Stalker, we have to shoot at night. And it was more expensive to shoot at night, but it's like, we have to shoot it, it's called the fucking Night Stalker. So these were the fights, and then they didn't have enough budget for the monsters, so at times they didn't look the best. And then pretty much this friction came to a course by the end, and then the ratings were always low for this. The ratings were never high, which is strange because these were two very successful TV movies, but then out of the gate the ratings were so low. Now whether it's because no one could deal with a horror TV show, but at the same time, Twilight Zone was successful. But I don't know why the ratings were so low. Apparently there were shows like Policewoman. I didn't know what the fuck Policewoman was. And some of this info I'm saying I gathered from the commentaries, which is a nice plus. Because pretty much each episode has a commentary with a historian, either a writer, a journalist, a film historian. And so that was nice to, as I listened to each one, grab little bits of info here and there. So, but yeah, I didn't know what the fuck Policewoman was. Apparently it's some show that lasted for 4 seasons, and it has DVDs, but I never even heard of this fucking show. But that was beating Kolchak. And then they tried to move it earlier, but then I think Sanford and Son pretty much killed it. As well as Darren McGavin, because by the end of it, he was not having fun. I'm like, I'm not having fun with this. I'm not enjoying myself. And sad to say, he was not a fan of the show. And he wasn't a fan of the second movie. The only one he liked as Kolchak was the first movie, The Night Stalker. And in the first, I think it was the first episode commentary, Mark Dawidziak, who wrote a companion for the show that I wish I could get, but you go on eBay, it's like $300. I'm like, I'm not paying $300. So it's sad. I would love to take a read of it because I'm a huge fan of it, but I guess, again, I'm not spending $300 for the book. I'm sorry. Just how it is. Maybe if this sells, maybe there'll be a reprint of it. That would be nice. I would love to give it a look and a read to get more info on that stuff, but this is literally became one of my favorite shows. I'll get to that in a minute. Bear with me. But yes, I mean, Darren McGavin, he likes the first movie. He wasn't really big on the second movie, and in the show, he wasn't really big on. But again, it's like, would have been nice to hear more details as maybe it tainted his image of it because of all the fighting, like all the fighting you have with the producer. But it would be nice to hear more about what that fighting was about. Again, was it you wanted to be more funny, or you wanted to be more scary, or was it just you want more money? Like, what was the details? And the thing is, with a lot of these film historians, they were not there, and the only guy who ever talked to Darren McGavin was Mark Dawidziak, which is weird because he's only on one commentary, like on one episode, and it seems like he's the guy who would be the most knowledgeable. So I'm a bit confused as to why he's not in it more, because He's the author of the Night Stalker Companion, which again I would love to take a read. I love the idea, but it's just way too expensive. But there was supposed to be 22 episodes, but there's only 20 because by the end, Darren McGavin's like, I quit. They made phone calls in this show. It's not fun anymore. I don't like it. Done. I didn't whether he got fried because of all the friction, all that jazz, which is a shame. And that's probably why he didn't want to play him on the X-Files. They finally got him on the X-Files as a different character, Darren McGavin, but that's probably why he didn't come back as Kolchak, which is a shame. I think that would have been nice. Would have been nice to see. Because it would have given a nice finale for Kolchak, that he's in the same world of the X-Files and that he would kind of pass the baton to Mulder and Scully. I think that would have been nice. I wish Darren McGavin had done that. I really do, in retrospect. But it is what it is. But yeah, it was only 20 episodes. I know there were a couple episode ideas they were going to do, because again, there was supposed to be 22, 23. And some of the ideas was one episode in the future would have been a female Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Interesting. One would be, I think it dealt with a wax museum, like wax figures coming to life. One dealt with, what was it? I think a mining town? I hear different things. Like one was supposed to be like a creature in the mines, or a mining town, or the mining facilities. And then one was something about a faith healer. But then some other person was possessed and said, the faith healer has to stop helping people, otherwise we're going to hurt your son or whatever. I mean, it would have been, I would love to have seen a season 2. If things had worked out, I would love to have seen a season 2 just to see what other ideas they would come up with next. Because, like I said, I love the show. And I'll get into the Blu-ray and then maybe I'll get into why I love the show. Because it's like 11 minutes in, I haven't gotten to the Blu-ray. But, like I said, the cover looks nice. It's a slip cover that pulls out. And, you know, nice sturdy case. It's a 4-disc set. Now, Tino Lorber, like they usually do, the disc is pretty bare when it comes to art, as in there's no art at all. But 4 discs, each one has 5 episodes apiece. The guy I mentioned, the Mark Divisiak, he wrote there's a little bit of info in here. And maybe it says a little bit here where, I'm trying to think. Darren liked the characters in the newsroom. We couldn't deliver steer and convincing monsters every week, so it began to head more and more in the direction of comedy, which was fine with me because that's my bent anyway. Now, again, I don't know if that's what Darren McGavin got mad about. And the person who said that was David Chase, which, if that name sounds familiar, David Chase, who is a story editor on this, he worked on almost every episode. He created The Sopranos. The guy who created The Sopranos worked on this show, David Chase. And he was the story editor. He worked on pretty much every episode as a story editor. So, yeah. And he's interviewed on this, too. I wish there were more interviews, to be fair. There's only 2 interviews. One with David Chase, the creator of the X-Files, who... it says he was a co-writer of 8 Kolchak the Night Stalker episodes, but behind the scenes are more as a story editor for more of them. And then an interview with a fan, Dana Gould, who created Stand Against Evil. Pretty much Dana Gould about why he's a fan of the show. And yeah, you have a little booklet which has a little bit of info as well as some pictures, which is nice as well to have a little booklet. And you have a few TV spot commercials. For some reason, only for 14 of the 20. I guess the first 6 they couldn't. I guess the first 6, since maybe that's more of a bad form on the studio itself, that they didn't have commercial for the first 6, or the first 6 episodes they couldn't find the commercials for them. But the last 14 they found the TV spots. And you have commentaries, and each one, I was going to say each one has a different person, but that's not true. Like, the first episode is Mark Dewiziat, the author of the Night Stalker Companion. He does a commentary on the first episode of The Ripper. 2 episodes is... I'm trying to think how many they did. David J. Shao, he's a guy who helped write Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Leatherface Chainsaw Massacre 3. He did commentary for 1 or 2 episodes. God, I'm trying to think. Film historian author Amanda Reyes did commentary, I think, for 2 episodes. I think there was Steve Mitchell and Cyrus Voris. Cyrus Voris actually helped write Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight. They did commentary for about 2 or 3 episodes, and those were the more fun. I would say those were the more fun ones. Had a good rapport with each other. These 2 guys who do this podcast, the Kolchak tapes, I think they did maybe 1 episode. Anyway, it was hard to keep track, unless I wrote them down, who did what episode, commentary-wise. I mean, they're historian commentaries. What I mean by that is that they'll be, for the most part, talking very fast, sometimes talking like they're reading off a script, going down the info about the actors, the guest stars, what they were in, maybe what was programmed at the time. Sometimes they personal opinions on the episodes. I would say my favorites were the ones with Steve Mitchell and Cyrus Voris. There's a couple others that were pretty decent. I don't think I would ever listen to them again, but I mean, it's nice to have there, because, you know, who could you give actor-wise for this, since it's from 1974? I will say my least favorite, I don't know why they had so many episodes, was novelist critic Tim Newman and his buddy Barry Forshaw. I wish these guys were not on here. They do like 3 or 4 commentaries, and they say they're fans, but all they do is nitpick the shit out of the show. Like, they say, well, I'm a fan, but then they say, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, and I don't know why they're even on there. I really don't. I think it was a waste of time, waste of space for them. I would rather prefer Mark Dewiziat, since he wrote the Nice Opinion. He could actually give info, he talked with Darren McGavin back in the day. Why wasn't it just him? Hell, get me and my friend Michael Keane, the Choice Voice. Let us do a commentary on those episodes. I think we could do a better job than those guys, Tim Newman and Barry Forshaw. I listened to 1, and I got in the half of the second one they did, and the last 2 I didn't. The last 2 of the commentaries I didn't watch. I didn't listen, I should say. I didn't listen to them. I was just kind of done. So again, the commentaries, it was interesting to hear a little bit about the background of the actors, the guest stars, because this had quite a few guest stars back in the day. You had Scatman Crothers, Antonio Vargas, Tom Skerritt, Dick Van Patten, Jamie Farr from TV show MASH, Phil Silvers, William Smith, Kathy Lee Crosby, Tom Bosley from Happy Days. Like, quite a few. And like I said, it's interesting to listen to, but the main reason I got this is for the episodes, and they look great. I think the episodes look great. It's the best I've seen the show look. Sometimes in the older reruns of the show, it seemed like scenes would be a bit too dark. That's not the case here. They look great. Forewarned, though, because of how the how TV was back in the day, when you have it, you don't have bars on the side. Like here and here is going to be black bars because it's a 4:3. And if they try to put on a TV and stretch the image, you're affecting the image. So again, if you're someone that for some reason doesn't like a black bar here and a black bar there, I mean, I guess technically maybe you find a way to fix it on your TV. It doesn't bother me because again, it was done with, in the day, TVs for 4:3. To do it that, it shows the better picture and just better picture quality. Otherwise, again, things would feel, it looked stretched. So that doesn't bother me. I just say that in case it bothers anyone else. I did not notice any errors. If there are errors, either I didn't notice them, or they weren't on my copy. I'm not really good at doing picture quality, sound quality. I'm not really good at that. Like Pizzow, who's a nice guy on here, very nice guy. Pizowell. He has a YouTube channel. Again, very nice guy. He does a better job with that. I'm not. I just say I thought it looked good and it sounded good, at least to me. And I do think it's an upgrade from the DVD picture quality wise. And yeah, I didn't notice any errors. And just really nice to see the show good looking, a lot crisper, because it says, let me see, does it say on the back here? Digitally restored. That's as far as it goes. It says digitally restored. And even the TV spots were newly remastered, which is nice too. Because the TV spots look good. 1920 times 1080p. That's what it says there. And yeah, I mean, I recommend this to anyone who's a fan of the show. Again, the commentaries, some are interesting. Like, again, I think the first pilot, Mark Duizia, is definitely very knowledgeable on the subject. Some were fine. I mean, it's worth a listen to. Honestly, I would say, at least in my opinion, I would skip the ones with Tim Newman on there. And on the bonus, on the menu, there's a bonus, and it'll show the commentaries, like which one and who is doing it. For me, I would skip the Tim Newman ones. But yeah, I do want to rewatch this just to watch the shows. And maybe do like a Night Stalker day. Watch the TV movies and such. And again, why enjoy the show? Like I said, I love Kolchak. I love the character. I think he's a guy who, like I said, he's a normal guy. He's a seeker of truth. And he's always picked on by the officers, the officials. He's got a brain. He's smart. He's quick-witted. And I actually like the Monster of the Week quality to it. I actually like that each episode was a standalone. That makes it a bit more unique compared to today. And now back in the day, and even today, there are people, even sometimes some of the historians, they would say, it got to a formula where it felt like the same thing week after week. And also a lot of times not all of them, to be fair, but some of them would, badmouth the effects. And yet the effects are not John Carpenter's The Thing. But then I would sit there and go, you guys do know, I mean, you're the historians. I'm just little old me. You do know this is, and some of them actually do say it. Like the last one, The Sentry, I liked his commentary. I think he even mentioned, it's a show, TV budget, 1974. I mean, if you complain about that, what about Star Trek 5 years before? And I like the original Star Trek. I have not the DVDs that have like the new effects in it. I have the DVDs that just have the old ones. But I love the original Star Trek as well as the first 6 movies. That TV show, it didn't have an overarching story arc. Pretty much each episode stood alone. And the monsters and the sets, it's not like they're Blade Runner, but I could live with it and be fine with it because I know the time, and it's a TV show from an era, and yeah, it would have been interesting to see if this show was made with the same actor, Darren McGavin, but say it was 1984 instead of 1974, and it's like, wow, this is a time where John Carpenter's The Thing came out, and The Howling came out, and now you got all these guys like Rob Bottin, and Tom Savini, and Stan Winston, and Rick Baker, and maybe each week someone could come in for an episode, and I think you'd have even more crazier ball game with that. But that wasn't how it is, and this is 1974, so for a TV budget, I think they did what they could with a TV budget. And like I said, the formula, almost every TV show during this time period had a formula. Very rarely did you have a TV show back in this time period that had... Nowadays, it's common that you have a TV show and characters, because it's season 3, season 15, season 23, that characters have overarching motifs, backstory, history, and you go to like the X-Files, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Supernatural, and there's a whole mythology. That was not the case for TV shows in the 70s, and not even for a lot of TV shows in the 80s. Not a whole lot. And to me, I'm like, well, if you got into season 2, if you want to work on that, you can. Have a break, see what worked, what didn't work. But yeah, I kind of like the Monster Hunter a week episode, because sometimes I just want to see a guy deal with a monster and kick its ass. And that's what Kolchak did. Think of the X-Files. Nowadays, when we think of the X-Files, what do we think of? The monster of the week. You know what sucked? The mythology. But at least with Mulder and Scully, you were able to develop those characters. You get to know a little bit more about them and their history and their family life. It's just Sally, it kept going on, and then they fucked around, and, well, now this is cigarette smoking man's kid. What? Well, retcon this shit, retcon that shit, so... I don't know where I'm going with that. But that wasn't... Look at TV shows back in the day. I don't care if it's Chips. I don't care if it's Happy Days. I don't care if it's Mork and Mindy. I don't care if it's Columbo. Columbo's a good show. But that had a formula every week too. Rockford Files. Like all these shows back then, that was a common thing. Very rarely did you have that, because it was a different time period. Because you didn't have a whole lot of syndication at that time. You didn't have a lot of other avenues to watch these episodes. So if you missed the first 10 episodes and you just got in, you're going to be confused as to, wait, what's this about? Is this a reference to something? It's not like today where you have streaming and you could go back, you rewatch it from episode 2, episode 4, from season 2, like we do today. Or even in the 90s when you had stuff like Sci-Fi Channel that would rerun all the episodes of Buffy and all the episodes of Quantum Leap, Babylon 5, and you would have syndication so that, okay, even if you're confused, here's a Quantum Leap night, or Quantum Leap day, or whatever, and you can watch all these episodes if you want to catch up. Or now we have this on DVD if you want to watch those, and then the new season comes out in 3 months. That wasn't the way it was back then. So again, that's why most shows in the 70s, every week was a singular contained episode. And you know what? I kind of miss that. I'm not saying every show has to be that, but I kind of miss that. You pop it in, you watch something that has a beginning, a middle, and end. Cool. Watch that episode for the day. Or I watch 2 episodes like I watch 2 movies. Cool. But sometimes that's not too bad either. And the formula works, I'm fine with it. I thought this formula worked. Again, if you had a season 2, if you want to rework some stuff, as in you want to add a little bit more backstory to Kolchak, or maybe him and Vincenzo, Simon Oakland, maybe Simon Oakland would start participating and going with Kolchak to these investigations. And maybe it'd be a precursor to Mulder and Scully, where he'd be the believer, but then Simon Oakland's always a skeptic. It's like Scully. Think about, by season 6, you're going, really, Scully? You're still a fucking skeptic after all you've seen and dealt with? You're still a fucking skeptic? But you kind of bought into it because the actor did a good job. Maybe you do that with this. And I think there's a lot of stuff you could have done with the season 2. But sadly, it's just low ratings, friction behind the scenes. That's not the way it was. And I love the show. And the monsters, again, low budget, sure, but this was 5 years. Star Trek was only 5 years before this. Because that ended in 1969, this was 74. And again, with low TV budget, you could only do so much with monsters. But you watch any of those shows, $6 Million Man. What wasn't Bigfoot a robot or something? I can't remember. The 70s. But yeah, I love the show. If I were to say like my top 5 favorite episodes, well, that'd be tough. And what's nice is that at the here you have the list of episodes. See, you had Jack the Ripper, the zombie, deadly aliens that feed on bone marrow, the vampire, a female vampire, a werewolf on a cruise ship, killer spirits, people who sell their soul to the devil, evil Native American medicine man. Okay, I know the top 5 would include, in no particular order, the werewolf. I like the cruise ship location. I know the sentry, the last episode. I think because I like the... Yes, it's a cheap suit, but I like that it's a lizard creature. I like the underground facility, the way it looks. I think it's fairly moody, atmospheric. I do like that one. Horror in the Heights, because that's an interesting idea where this demon will assume the form of a person its victim trusts. So like this couple, they see a policeman, but us, we see that's a creature, and that's how it lures people to kill them. That's an interesting idea. Horror in the Heights. I guess I would go with... Chopper, which actually the idea was from Robert Zemeckis before he got famous for Back to the Future. That was a headless motorcyclist decapitating people, and you can only show so much on TV. And oh god, I'm missing a lot. Like, I like the Ripper, the zombie, the Spanish Moss Murders. I'll go with Spanish Moss Murders, just because. But there's not many episodes I disliked. I mean, even the lesser ones I did get some enjoyment out of. Like Demon and Lace, or the Trevi Collection, the Youth Killer. Those are probably 3 that I would put in the lesser quality, but I can still get enjoyment out of them because they're still different ideas, and I still enjoy the character. And when you have a character that's likable, I know at one point they were going to do a movie. Johnny Depp was going to star, and Tim Burton was going to direct it. Considering Dark Shadows and some of this other shit, maybe that's good we didn't get that. And then they tried to do a TV show again in 2005 that looked like fucking dog shit. And that didn't even last like, what, 6 episodes? Although I think the guy who made that show worked on the X-Files, and on that reboot, he wanted to have Kolchak as an older guy, and he was thinking of like Ted Danson or John C. Reilly, and he was going to be in the outfit. But then the network said, no, we want a younger, hip, good-looking guy in his 20s, and he needs to have a girl who is on equal footing with him. And from the get-go, it wasn't the show he wanted. Because Ted Danson in a new nice, I mean, or that type of actor. But the thing is, like, there's one Kolchak. There's one John McClane. There's one John Rambo. There's one Kolchak. And, I could sit here and think, like, who as an actor to replace him? That's a very tall, tough order. I mean, if there's one that I'm curious about... I don't know, I had to think about that. That's a bit tough. I don't know why I keep thinking Tom Selleck. Like, an older Tom Selleck. Like, instead of doing Blue Bloods, that show, that'd be interesting. Tom Selleck. He can even keep the mustache, but... Like, I could buy him in that suit, and... He'd have that rapport with people where he could be... It'd be like kind of a little bit of his Magnum PI, but... I don't know. I'd have... No. But, I mean, it's Kolchak. You can't replace Kolchak. So... And that TV show, that 2005 one, looks like dog shit. But anyway, went 35 minutes. Oh well. I would say the Blu-ray is worth picking up. If you like the show, like me, I would say pick it up before it goes out of print, because you never know. And I'm glad I have it in my collection. Easily my favorite release of the year, because I think the show looks pretty damn good on Blu-ray. And I didn't see any errors or such. But yeah, I wish there were more interviews, but then I'm thinking, well, who would you interview? I mean, a lot of the people involved with it have passed on or whatnot. So, with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later.